Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and we got some exciting stuff as we now finally have all of the Day 2 deck lists available for us from the Sacramento Regionals. And I'm not gonna lie, man, there were some pretty cool decks that got Day 2 this weekend. I'm excited to take a look at all of the Day 2 decks. We're gonna quickly analyze each and every one of them. Of course, we do have Toronto Regionals in a couple weeks. I think Lille Regionals is this weekend, so there's a decent bit of regionals coming up, and I am super excited to look at the meta. Of course, Sacramento was a bit of an odd regionals because there were some pretty interesting decks that ended up performing decently well. There's actually quite a few cool rogue decks that got Day 2, so it's a lot to digest, and I'm excited to kind of look at everything that got Day 2 at Sacramento. If y'all are new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you never miss an upload, and also all that good stuff. Leave a like on the video if you're going to enjoy. But without further ado, let's get into it. First off, of course, we got the winning deck here, Lugia 1. Colorless Lugia 1. Lugia kind of underperformed in Peoria. A lot of people expected Colorless Lugia to be the best deck heading into Peoria, and it ended up doing a little, it didn't do well, right? And I think that was mainly because of the popularity of Miraidon. Miraidon didn't have the greatest showing this time around, I think, compared to Peoria. But yeah, Colorless Lugia is like still a good deck. If it literally just dodges Miraidon, or even then just play a Dunsparce, I think Lugia is still like a great deck. I think it beats a lot of things. With Giratina though, kind of heading out of the format, I do think that Lugia maybe gets a little bit worse because like Giratina is not as popular right now, which is a good thing for Lugia. But Lugia is still a pretty solid deck, and I'm not surprised it won. Because Colorless Lugia is just an insane deck. If it runs hot, it sets up double Archeops. The deck is pretty good, and Snorlax is insane. There's a lot more Lost Box this weekend than there ever was, and I think that's a big deal for Colorless Lugia because I think it's more favored in a Lost Box. So you do have the Snorlax, which the winning list played 3 Snorlax, which is crazy. I think Lugia is still well-positioned heading into Toronto, though I think we might see a bit of a spike in Miraidon. Now, there were some other big decks in top 8, and the big one, the one that got a lot of people interested, was the Arceus VSTAR Gyarados VMAX deck that got second place at Sacramento. Now, this is a pretty crazy deck, obviously. Gyarados VMAX is a card nobody has really thought of in a long time. I know I have. I did a video on Arceus Gyarados a couple months ago, though that build was playing like Crushing Hammer and stuff. But Arc Gyarados is something that I actually like, and I miss Arceus Gyarados because Arceus Gyarados legit used to be a good deck back in the day when we had Jolteon and Memory Capsule. We no longer have that, but the deck's been revived, and, shout out to Nicolo for getting second place with this Arc Gyarados deck. I think actually Nicolo maybe had a little bit better draws. I think Nicolo is favored to win the entire tournament. So it is a Judge Path deck at the end of the day. Arc is a very strong archetype when you get to abuse Judge and Path, and this deck does abuse it, but it also plays some other big heavy hitters like Slacking, which is a nice big damage hitter. And then you have the Gyarados VMAX. Now, Gyarados, I think maybe it's just a one-time kind of fluke. I don't think this card is that great going forward, mainly because it has a glaring lightning weakness. If you're playing against Miraidon, Gyarados is terrible, though to be fair, it is better against a lot of other decks, so maybe Gyarados is just that good. But I do think that Gyarados could be just a one-and-done thing, where I think it was a good call for a Miraidon-less tournament, or a tournament where Miraidon isn't as good. But the main trait of this card is it's a big, bulky EX with Hyper Beam that can discard energy from your opponent's active Pokemon, which basically the strategy is with this deck is Judge Path Hyper Beam can be very annoying for opponents to deal with who rely on energy, little energy. Like Charizard, for example, if you go Judge Path Charizard alongside Hyper Beam and they overextend their, Infernal Rain ability, they're not going to be able to attack you. So that's kind of the draw of playing the Gyarados VMAX. We also have, like, other cool cards like Vengeful Punch in the deck and Defiance Band to help against Miraidon, and you have, Melanie in the deck and Radiant Greninja. So if you miss a turn on Energy Arc, you can always Greninja plus Melanie and attach a DT off of a Starbirth. This build only plays 3 DTs, which is kind of insane, to be honest. Like, 3 DTs, not that much, because you usually want to play 4, but with the Melanie, it's not as bad. It's definitely an interesting build. I think the one card that I'm a little weirded out by is the Serena. I'm not sure if the Serena's needed over maybe a third boss, but it's a really cool archetype, and I'm glad to see Gyarados do well again. I missed when Arc Gyarados was good, and I think this is a really unique deck, and it's nice to see Arceus still holding on in the format. A lot of people thought Arceus was kind of a dead archetype. And then, of course, we got Sawyer here in top 4 with the Turbo Lost Zone Kyogre deck. Kyogre was a good call for this tournament because I don't think people really tech for Kyogre, which is weird to say, but, like, nobody's teching for Kyogre right now, even though it has been doing really, really well. And then, of course, we got another Colorless Lugia in top 8. This one is a bit different. It actually plays a 3-2 Lugia VSTAR line, kind of prioritizing more of the other attackers. Plays both Luxray and Charizard, triple Snorlax, 4 Boss. Very aggressive approach of Colorless Lugia. Also playing Great Ball, Ultra Ball, and capturing Aroma to make it even easier to get turn 2 double Archeops, which I do like. The consistency is nice, and I think that Lugia VSTAR can be a very good archetype. And when it's, you have higher odds of getting double Archeops with, the higher Pokemon count, it can be very deadly. We got a Guardian top 8, playing a Spirit Tomb. Spirit Tomb is okay in the deck. It's nice to have against Mew VMAX, obviously, but I do think that Gardevoir is a pretty solid deck still. I think that it still kind of stays the same. Its Colors Lugia matchup can be a little sketchy, I will admit, because now they have like triple Snorlax with Drapion and Radiant Zard and even Luxray sometimes, but ultimately I think Gardevoir is still a fine archetype. I think it's still decent in the meta right now, and still, in my opinion, a top deck in the format. We got another Lugia. Yes, half the top 8 was Lugia. Lugia dominated this tournament, and of course we got another Colors Lugia here. This one not playing the Great Balls, playing the Charizard and no Luxray. The triple Snorlax, the Mew, the Weird Ear, yeah, everything just kind of checks out. But yeah, Lugia is just a great deck right now, and we'll have to see where Lugia goes into Toronto. We got Azul here in top 8 with the Raymond Long 60. I'm pretty sure it's the same 60 as Raymond. But yeah, we see the Kyogre Zamazenta deck, which is just good. And with the amount of Miraidon Azul played against, like, I think both times Azul was on stream, he had a Miraidon, which is like an auto win. Or not an auto win, but it's like extremely favored. So it is interesting to see Kyogre do well. 2 Kyogre in top 8. It might have to start being one of those things where you gotta respect the Ogre going into Toronto. Especially if you do well enough, you're gonna, like, Kyogre is gonna be something you hit more at the top tables, more or less than anything else, but it'll be nice to tech for it and maybe have a Manaphy in your deck, just saying. And then finally, we got yet another Colors Lugia in top 8. This one is a bit different. It's got Luxray Charizard, it's got Ditto, which can turn into a Terma Lugia, and it's also got Squawkabilly in the deck to help with consistency and getting Archeops in the discard pile a lot quicker. So I do like this build of Colors Lugia too. If I were to pick my favorite build, I don't know. I am kind of a fan of the build here that played the Great Balls. Like, just more consistency is better. The downside of this build, you have less Lugia VSTARs in the deck, so figure something out there, but I like this build too. I don't know. If you want to play Colors Lugia for Toronto, there's 4 different versions of it in top 8. Definitely take a look at which one you think is the best and just pilot it. That's the way to go. Outside of top 8, we do have a Arc Duraludon deck, but kind of a weird build. So it's not like Arc Dura Vulpix or Arc Umbreon. It's Arc Dura with Mawile. It's not even like, it's not really even an Arc Dura deck. It's only playing a 1/1 Duraludon, which is obviously just there for like Lugia. But it's more or less just an Arc Bibarel deck, but it has Duraludon and Mawile. So the idea behind double Mawile is it's really good against Guardy, obviously, and it's also good against Charizard. I know Braden did tweet and said the double Mawile is basically because Charizard plays Lost City. So they'll Lost City your Mawile and Rope after you try to trap their Mew, but then you have a double Mawile, you can do it again, and if they don't play 2 Rope, which a lot of the time Charizard doesn't play 2 switch cards, they can't get out of the Mawile trap if you trap their Mew. They might play Penny, though, so that's like the only sus thing, but double Mawile can cheese you wins, and also Judge Path can also cheese wins against Charizard, too. Double Charon's Care can also be very good against Charizard to help the prize trade. Pretty cool 60. I'll have to see where this Arc Dura 60 kind of goes going forward. It's an interesting idea, because it's not a conventional Arc Dura deck where you're not combining it with other really powerful cards. You're just combining it with just, like, annoying stuff like Mawile and Judge Path. Instead of like Umbreon or something. Another Lost Zone deck here doing pretty good. Looks like Turbo Lost Box with the Mew EX and Trekking Shoes. So really trying to be Turbo there. We got a Miraidon deck. So yeah, Miraidon still did okay. And with how good Lugia did, I definitely expect Miraidon to be slightly more popular in Toronto. And not to mention, Miraidon is already a popular deck in the Toronto area. But yeah, we do see the Miraidon doing pretty well with the 3-path. The Collapse Stadium is also pretty interesting. That does slightly help against Kyogre, I imagine. We got a Shenpao deck here in top 16. Another just, like, pretty solid archetype. Nobody really respects Shenpao, though I will say with Judge Path doing a bit better now, it might be time for Shenpao to maybe try to figure out how to deal with, like, Judge Path a bit more. But, I mean, Shenpao is just a very solid deck right now. It's one of those decks that'll just probably continue to do well as no one really takes into account. There's a Tina here in top 16. I mean, Tina's kind of on the downswing, and with how dominant Lugia did, I don't know if Giratina can continue its its good performances, but seeing one in top 16 is good. For all you Giratina believers out there, the deck still exists and is still doing well. We got another Miraidon here in top 16. And, yeah, we'll see where Miraidon goes going forward. Because, I mean, with how good Lugia did, it's not surprising that a couple Miraidon were able to squeak in. We got another Kyogre Lost Box playing the Town Store double stone package in the deck. So that's interesting. The Sky Seal Stone, pretty good against, like, Lugia, because you can take 3 prizes, which really does boost your prize trade against them, especially when you try to go with, like, a late game Kyogre. We got a Rapid Strike in top 16 too. Rapid Strike holding on. Lugia did do pretty well this weekend, but if Miraidon all of a sudden resurges in Toronto, Rapid Strike could be a good play. And with Lost Box still continuing to do well and like still in the meta, I think Rapid Strike is still, in my opinion, just a perfectly fine pick for Toronto. Outside of top 16, we got another Kyogre Lost Zone deck. This one does have that one of Ditto in the deck, which can sometimes turn into a 5th Comfey. We see another... we see Gardy here, Henry Brand piloting Gardy to an 18th place. Yeah, pretty straightforward Gardy list. Playing the triple stadiums with the Artisan Collapsed and the League Headquarters, which League Headquarters probably was pretty good against the Kyogre matchup, I would say, or just Lost Zone in general. I guess you're not getting Kyogre if you're playing Lost Box. Speaking of Lost Box, yet another Lost Zone deck, and it looks like we got another Raymond Long 60 here. Pretty similar, anyways, to Raymond's list with the Beach Court, Artisan, Pokestop, the Pidgeot, the Kyogre Zam. Still a pretty solid archetype. But we'll probably continue to see the Zam Kyogre deck do well in Toronto. Like, if you're looking to play Kyogre Toronto, just honestly play Raymond 60. We got the Rapid Strike deck here once again. Alex Kreckler did, I think he went 9-0 in day 1 with Rapid Strike, and unfortunately was not able to convert that to a top 8 finish, which is sad, but that's Rapid Strike sometimes. Either you hit the good matchups, or you just have really bricky hands, and that's one of the issues with Rapid Strike, is it can brick a lot. A couple more Lost Zone decks here. We got Nick Moffat with our Lost Zone with our Research. Obviously, Research is not something you usually see, but it is really good when trying to go Kyogre, especially if you get Iono'd and you draw into it. You don't mind discarding like 2 or 3 cards as opposed to discarding, 9+ cards. So the Research is a really cool addition to Lost Box, and we'll have to see if it kind of is something that we could see as a staple going into the Kyogre build, because it does speed up the process of getting to Kyogre. Yeah, we got more Turbo here. This one not playing Raikou, actually opting for Drapion and Pidgeot split. That's interesting. We got an Arc Charizard in top 32. Now, this is interesting, because Arc Charizard is kind of the dying archetype if you're going to play Charizard, but it definitely isn't the worst archetype. This build, though, does not play Pidgeot. It's actually opting for a double Bibarel, which is, like, decent. It's better into, like, Judge Path, and, you don't have that liability of Pidgeot in play. The one thing maybe this deck is missing, though, is a way to take Arceus off the board, because you maybe want to just have your board just be lone Charizard, right? But I definitely don't hate this build. I've always been a fan of Bibarel in Arceus. Or I'm a fan of Bibarel with Charizard, because it's not a bad idea, right? You don't have the liability of Pidgeot. The downside is you just don't have Pidgeot, right? But it gives you time to set up more Charizards, because you don't have to put another stage 2 in play. Yet another Gardy here. Actually going for the Skyseal Stone and only 1 reversal. So I've thought about this. Like, Skyseal Stone and Gardy is something that I don't think is like amazing right now, but Double Zacian I think is good. Double Zacian actually makes the Charizard matchup a lot more winnable, because you can go Gardevoir, Zacian, Zacian. Zacian has no problem doing 330 damage. I will say that. Zacian is one of the strongest attackers right now in the format for Gardy, because it can hit almost any number you want it to hit, depending on how well you can sequence your turn, if you have to do Shine Arcana, but Zacian is still just insane in my opinion, so it is nice to see double Zacian. It's something that I've thought of with Gardy. We do see another double Turbo Mew here in the tournament, not getting the Luxray build, or not playing the Luxray Grabber build, it looks like, but just another double Turbo Mew, which is a fine deck, and I think Spiritomb is starting to pop back up again, so I don't know if I'd personally play it, but it is something to take note of. We do see a Shenpao doing pretty good again, the Canadian Shenpao deck. That one does play a Lumineon though, which is interesting. We got an Arvinzard, the first Arvinzard. I think Arvinzard is still a great deck. I think Charizard it's not a sleeper deck or anything, but I do think it's one of those decks that kind of can fly under the radar right now in the meta. So we'll have to see if we'll see more Charizard, the Arvinzard deck in Toronto, because I think it didn't overperform this time around like it did in Peoria, and that could be pretty good for Charizard believers going into Toronto. Especially Arvinzard. That's a pretty solid 60 to pick up. We actually see a Lost Zone Radiant Zard deck here, piloted by Alex Shemansky. Not like the one from Peoria. It looks like it's a bit different. It does play the Pidgeot and the Forest Seal Stone, but at the end of the day, it is still just that Radiant Zard deck. Playing the Forest Seal Stone Pidgeot package does give you a V-Star power, and also gives you access to, like, Turbo Lost Vacuum. Your Sableye into play, so that's cool. Another Lugia here in top 32, Colorless Lugia. Playing the Dunsparce, helping against Miraidon a little bit. I don't know if the Dunsparce gives you enough an advantage against Miraidon. You probably would want to play it if you're scared of Miraidon. Like, if I'm playing Lugia to Toronto, I am playing a Dunsparce because there's going to be a lot of Miraidon. Not only because Lugia won, but also because, like, again, the Toronto area adores Miraidon. A lot of people are going to play Miraidon in Toronto, in my opinion. So having Dunsparce will help a lot in that matchup. But I don't know how much it really does help, but it might be enough. Couple Shenpao decks here doing pretty good. We got the Canadian Shenpao. We got Vance Kelly getting top 32 again with the Shenpao deck too, so it's pretty cool. 2 Shenpaos. Shenpao's, again, just a pretty solid archetype. And then outside of depth, the last deck in top 32, I mean, is another Lost Tina deck here. Again, Lost Tina just being a good deck, but it is scary with all the Lugia going around. But, you know, it's still a good deck in the format, even with all the Lugia. Outside of the top 32, got my friend Joe here. Unfortunately, got 33rd place with the Shenpao deck also, so that's super unfortunate to see. But Shenpao doing Shenpao things. We got a Mew deck, actually. Poke-Emi doing pretty well with Mew here. The Grabber Mew double turbo build with the Luxray. It's unfortunate that her stream game wasn't very good because like, she like judged path Luxray and the opponent still pulled off like the Arceus, and it was kind of cheesy, but it is what it is. Double turbo Mew with Luxray is definitely a solid archetype, and I would still look into playing it. It is scary with the amount of Spiritomb that might be out there, but it's still a cool archetype. We actually got a Arctina. So Arctina's a deck I'm not too sold on right now. I think the main issue is that Mew is very good against this deck, but Arctina is still a very strong Judge Path deck, and considering how well Judge Path decks did this weekend, it's no surprise that Arctina is going to do well. So we'll have to see where Arctina goes into Toronto. I think it's like a middle-of-the-road deck. I also think Arctina has a bad Miraidon matchup. I want to note that too. We do see another Guardy here. And it looks like just a normal Guardy deck. Playing a Spiritomb, though. Obviously, Spiritomb is pretty good. Where was that? That was Cal's list. Yeah, we got Cal's Lugia again, doing pretty good. Cal's Lugia definitely did better this time around than it did in Peoria. And we're seeing it here with another Lugia deck in top 64. We got another Shenpao deck, and it looks like it is Shenpao with a Wishy-Washy. Now, that's interesting. It is a nice one-prize attacker, and that can give you a good one-prize attacker before you want to go Shenpao. Because Shenpao is a deck that doesn't have to put a two-prizer in play unless you absolutely have to. So having the Wishy-Washy does help a little bit in that regards. Double Iona is interesting, too. Yeah, I'll have to think on that. The Wishy-Washy is interesting. Obviously, it's a bit of food for Lost Box, but if you put, 3 energy on it, it goes to, like, 150 HP, so it becomes super tanky. More Turbo Lost Zone here with the Ditto, once again, to help with the 5th Comfy. Another Lost Tina. Yeah, there we go, more Lost Tina. I guess with, like, how popular Charizard is, it's not, like, the worst play you could have. We even see another Arctina here doing pretty good. I'm interested to see how Arctina is going to do in Toronto. I don't think I would personally play it at Toronto. Like, I don't know if the deck is that good right now, but a Judge Path is good. And I'm good with Arctina. I like it, but I don't know if I personally play it, but seeing it do well isn't ever a bad thing. Got another Shenpao. Now, this is a different kind of Shenpao. This one actually plays Rotom V, so it doesn't have a Bibarel in the deck. It plays Rotom with Force Seal Stone, with that ability to let you draw 3 cards, your turn ends, and then you can also synergize Rotom with Force Seal Stone. The only downside of Rotom is it's a 2-prize liability, but at that point, if they're not bossing Baxcalibur or Shenpao, like, who cares? And I guess that's kind of the thought process you want with the deck. Because we do see more Lost Zone here doing good. You see more Charizard. I think I just looked at that Lost Zone deck, actually. Arvinzar with a Mew EX. Now, Mew's interesting in the deck. I think that it does have potential because it does give you a really cool attacker, but the downside of the Mew is that it's also a liability. The benefit of playing Charizard is you can have these big, massive Pokemon in play that can be tough to deal with, and having sometimes a flimsy HP Mew cannot be ideal. It's definitely a decent like tech card, though. Like, some people might not see it. I think that's the draw of playing Mew, is that the opponent won't see it coming. So I guess it makes sense to play the Mew overall. Got more Guardy, once again, with a Mew EX also, and an Avery. Interesting. Some interesting tech inclusions there. I guess Avery Mew is kind of cool, but actually maybe not, because they'll have the Manaphy in play. But I guess you're never benching Manaphy against Guardy anyways. Like, if I'm playing against Guardy, I'm probably not benching Manaphy, so the Mew can catch you off guard. That's kind of cool. We got more Turbo Lost Box with a Spiritomb. The Spiritomb does also help against Charizard, too. Not just, like, Mew and Lugia, but Charizard. More Guardy. This time it is Guardy again, with that one of Mew EX in the deck, which is interesting. We'll have to see if Mew becomes a staple in Guardy going forward. More Shenpao here with a Pidgeot. A little bit more to set up, but it is good to have. And, I mean, you do have, like, 5 Stadium outs plus the Irida for the vacuum. So, like, technically, you have, what, like, 9 Stadium bumps. So, like, Pidgeot is safe. And it is one of those cards where, like, Pidgeot every turn is chilling. Though, at the same time, Bibarel's also pretty good. I don't know. I think the double Bibarel is still overall better because you don't, like, play research or anything. But the Pidgeot's cool. Getting any card out of your deck every turn can make it easier to pull off more combos, obviously. We got another Arczard here. Interesting to see Arczard still do well. It's not a bad deck by any means, but it is surprising to see it still do well. This build actually has an Echoing Horn in the deck, so that's cool. I guess that is nice when you combine it with Boss Order. Now, here's the big one. We got a Lost Zone Dialga in day 2. Yeah, you heard right. Lost Zone Dialga. And this is a deck that I don't think a lot of people really would have expected. Dialga VSTAR is one of those cards people like to play. I mean, obviously, it's cool like Magnezone, but this is not a Magnezone Dialga deck. No, this is a Lost Zone build. Now, Lost Zone Dialga was a thing back in the day, though it did just lose Metal Saucer, which does weaken the archetype a little bit. However, this build does play the Mirage Gate. You can Mirage Gate, Metal, and Water Energy to Dialga, and then play like 3 more. So if you don't Lost on your Mirage Gates, you can easily build up Dialga VSTAR. You have Raihan in the deck too. It's an interesting archetype for sure. I guess if you like bench Dialga, attach energy to it, you can still like Mirage Gate 2, and then Mirage Gate another one, attach again. And I guess you can get a pretty fast Dialga VSTAR. It is an interesting archetype for sure. And the fact that it got day 2 is awesome to see. It's always good to see rogue decks do well. And this is a very cool Lost Zone variant, right? Lost Zone Dialga. Who would have expected? It's kind of cool. Plus, you also get Zam in the deck, which I guess is also just a nice backup attacker to have. So that's cool. It's always nice to see stuff like that do well. We got Arczard again doing pretty good. Interesting. A lot more Arczard did well this time around. And we got another Guardy again with the Mew. I think it's Brent Tonneson again with probably the same 60. I think he played in Peoria. Another Miraidon. So, yeah, we haven't been seeing as much Miraidon. I mean, we saw a couple in top 16, but that's about it. But, yeah, Miraidon still obviously a pretty solid archetype. And I mean, it's Miraidon, right? We're just going to see it do well because Miraidon it wins games sometimes. It cheeses wins. Another Lost Tina deck here. Doing pretty good. We'll see if Lost Tina is good for Toronto. Got more Rapid Strike, obviously. Another deck that just if you get the right matchups, it gets, good placements, right? Just kind of how it goes. What else do we got here? Yeah, it's another cool rogue deck. There's actually a Zoroark VSTAR deck in day 2. Now, I am a huge fan of this list. It's not playing Dodrio, which I think a lot of people were like, oh, Dodrio is the best way to play Zoroark. But nope, this build does not play Dodrio. So maybe we've been playing and building Zoroark VSTAR wrong all this time. It's actually a Klefki build. So the idea behind the Klefki is you can combine it with Zoroark V's hit and run attack, or you can just use it to slow down Lost Zone and Mew and Shenpao and any other deck that relies on abilities, right? And it's kind of sick, actually. So it's a really smart inclusion. Even starting off Celebration's Mew's ability so that Charizard can't, get another Battle VIP or something can actually also make a pretty big difference. So the Klefki's a really cool inclusion. I think it's a pretty solid list, to be honest. I don't think it's bad. I mean, it one-hit KOs pretty easily. It's got the Justified Gloves with the Alakazam, Gape Drop Bog. Psychic Energy combo to sometimes knock out a Charizard out of nowhere. It's definitely got a lot of cool plays it can make, and I am excited to see a Zoroark VSTAR deck do well. It's awesome to see. And it got top 64, so decent placement. So the Zoroark deck is pretty sick, and then below that, of course, we got another Shenpao playing to the Spiritomb. Probably there, obviously, to slow Mew and Lugia down. It's not a bad one-of to play, to be honest. It makes that matchup a little bit more winnable. More Turbo Lost Box here. Double Pokestop. Yep. See what else we got. We got a Lost Zone Charizard deck. Is this Radiant Zard? No, it is Lost Zone. Okay, so it's Lost Zone Charizard EX. So, again, some people like playing this archetype. Some people say it's better than the other builds of Charizard. I'm not sold on it, but it did get day 2. So it does have a day 2 placement under its belt here again. And, I mean, it's an okay deck, right? It's an okay deck. And it's fine. It got day 2, and that's all that matters, right? More Guardy action here. This time, double Crest, double Avery. Whoa. Bit of a more teched out build of the Gardevoir, but it can definitely catch people off guard. I mean, double Avery definitely is good. It could be good in the mirror, obviously, in other matchups like Shenpao, it's nice. We got more Lost Tina shenanigans, doing pretty good. We got more Lost Box to look at. We see Caleb on the Raymond Log Kyogre 60 with the Zamazenta and the Pidgeot. Still a pretty solid deck, right? Even heading into Toronto. We got more Turbo Lost Box this time, playing Drapion and Mew, so a little bit more teched out. And we got another Lugia here, Colorless Lugia with the Mew, the Luxray, no Charizard, and we do see a Serena in the deck, and double Burnett, double Research, so interesting assortment of supporters. And then we got more Turbo Lost Box with the Mew EX in the deck too, so Mew definitely finding its home in Lost Zone. Now outside of top 64, we do have yet another Lost Tina here. And we got, I think, another Lost Tina below that. So Tina didn't have the worst performance this time around. This build is interesting. It's playing a Fish, a Snorlax, and a Temple of Sinnoh. Temple's not bad. It does help against Lugia, but it's more better to, single strike than his Colorless. But it does help a little bit, because it also shut off Gift Energy is pretty good. Another Guardy build with the Mew EX. I'll have to see how many Guardies do well with Mew this time around. We got another Shenpao deck here. This one having, yeah, that Zinnia's Dissolve. Yeah, Shenpao. Canadian. I'm actually curious to see if the Zinnia's better than, like, Iono, but it is a decent idea. We do see a single strike Lugia getting day 2, playing a Penny and a Cobalion. So it does have a couple of techs. It does have that Radiant Serena too. Not a bad idea. I do like the single strike build. It's just, you kind of have to be careful with Charizard. That's like the ultimate downside of playing this deck, is like its Charizard matchup is shaky. Even with the Cobalion, it's not a guaranteed win or anything. It's definitely still a tougher matchup for sure, but Single Strike beats a lot of other things in the format. I think it's good into Colorless Lugia. I also think it's very good into Lost Zone decks, right? And that's kind of one of its big draws. And obviously the Dark Attackers are good to have against other archetypes. So there you go. Got some Rapid Strike here with a Squawkabilly trying to help things out. Also a Thornton, and a Cheryl. Well, Cheryl's a mainstay, but the Thornton and Squawkabilly are interesting for sure. Another Charizard here. This time we got another Arvinzard. Yeah, pretty straightforward 60 with the Cobalion. I guess no Lost City playing the Collapse. And a Vitality Band, so some interesting stuff. Now we got Israel Sosa here on Arc Keys, baby. So yeah, another cool, interesting archetype in day 2 is the Arceus. Israel was doing pretty good day 1. So the idea behind this deck is you're trying to counter the meta. You have Aerodactyl, which is good against Lugia, and Miraidon, because it gives you a fighting attacker. You also have the Klefkis, obviously, for Lost Box. 3 Klefkis is definitely a little interesting, because it decreases the chance of starting with it, but it does play, like, double Poncho. It tries to be a bit more teched out. The 1/1 Vulpix, obviously, it's fine against Charizard and Shenpao. The downside with this build, though, is you can't really do lone Vulpix. Like, against, like, Charizard and Shenpao, you want to go lone Vulpix, because if they have, double cross-switch, if they have cross-switcher, rope, boss, it is tough to beat. So I like the deck. I'm a fan of Arceus. It is cool to play. I want to see if it's a legit thing going forward. We'll see if this deck ends up doing well again in Toronto. Because, again, Arc Piles are making a comeback. We do see another Lost Zone Turbo deck here. And another Lost Zone Turbo deck with Michael Pramawat playing it this time with that one of Spiritomb. We got 3 Charizard decks in a row. Holy moly. So it looks like they're all Arvinzards here. We got 1 Arvinzard. I got 2 Arvinzards. And I got a 3rd Arvinzard, right? You got Zach Lesage playing the Arvinzard. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Arvinzard doing pretty good still. Again, I think it's still like the best way to play Charizard, even though we are seeing like the Arc variant do well in Sacramento. Got another Shenpao deck here playing Wishy-Washy and Cynthia's Ambition and the Luminion. So a little bit more teched out. The Wishy-Washy is definitely interesting. It's what, twice we've seen it now this video? It's crazy. Got more DT Mew with that Luxray and Grabber looking pretty similar to Rowan 60. We got another Turbo Lost Zone playing the one of Tropius to help a little bit against Charizard. It's not a bad idea, right? Because you can hit the Charizard and then you can like Sableye or Cram Tropius them, kind of 2-punch them. Tropius also only requiring a couple of energy. Makes it easier to build up. See more Miraidon here. Doing pretty good. Got another Mew. Did we just look at that? I don't think we did. Did we? Wait, am I trolling? Did we already look at that? No, we did not look at that. I am trolling. Another Miraidon. Yeah, just straightforward Miraidon decks. We got Guardy once again. Any crazy techs? Nah, not really. No crazy techs. Not like the ones we've been seeing. Got another Lost Tina here with that one of Snorlax. Not seeing any grass attackers. Interesting. We got Guardy once again with the Spiritomb in the deck to help out against some of the matchups. That's pretty nice. We got another Mew. This time it's Fusion Mew. So a deck that's, been kind of on the downswing is Fusion Mew. It's not as popular now or as played or doing as well as DT Mew, but Fusion Mew is still, it wins games, right? And especially with how good Lugia did and even Miraidon. It doesn't, it makes sense why a deck like that would do good. And then we got another Rapid Strike deck here. Playing Letter of Encouragement is interesting. So that gives you 3 Water Energies if something gets knocked out. It's an interesting idea. I guess they'd sacrifice that 7th energy for the Letter of Encouragement. Also playing a Palpad is nice. I guess it helps against like Iono and stuff. That's an interesting idea. Technology, baby. And there is a Palkia Shenpao deck here in day 2. Now, obviously, this is not playing Baxcalibur. It is more of a Palkia VSTAR deck, but does have that Shenpao in the deck, which can sometimes attack. Does also play the Clone Cross Switcher. Again, I think it's still like a sleeper underdog deck in the meta right now. We do see another just Canadian Shenpao. And yeah, below that, we got another Rogue deck. There is a Reggie deck in day 2. I love to see this baby. Now, Reggie's kind of a weird deck. It's weirdly positioned right now is the best way to describe it. So it has a good matchup against Miraidon. I think it beats Arc. I actually think it's okay against Lugia. Its Lugia matchup it's okay, right? You do have weakness, but Lugia also plays like double Collapse Stadium, which can be a little annoying. But Reggie's does have the ability to cheese knockouts. I mean, turn 1 KOs are pretty cool. Seeing Reggie's get day 2 makes me very happy. It's a shame we never got to, like, see it on stream or anything, because I always stream, like, the people doing really good. But it would have been cool to see this. I mean, dude, Reggie's, Dialga, Zoroark VSTAR, Gyarados VMAX, cards that we would not have expected to ever get day 2 in a massive regionals are getting day 2. What's going on, man? I guess the double Regidrago from Evolving Skies helps against Charizard, because you can't two-shot a Charizard with Reggies. There's a Lost Gudra deck in day 2. It's cool to see. Yeah, Lost Gudra. A deck that's decent. It won in the Seniors Division, right, in Peoria. Another Guardy here playing that Mew EX in the deck. More Lost Zone stuff, it looks like. Yeah, Turbo Lost Box. Let's see what else we got here. We got 2 more Guardies coming up. We got a Guardy, once again, with Mew EX in the deck as a tech. And then we got another Guardy here. Once again, no Mew this time, but playing the Penny, so kind of respecting any Mawile shenanigans. We do see yet another Turbo Lost Zone deck with Drapion. It's an interesting inclusion right now, because like Mew is not super popular, but it is still out there, and you can still hit it. And we got more Rapid Strike, obviously. Just kind of the more standard stuff we've seen. Yeah, we got more Turbo Lost Box. I'm going to try to skim through some of these decks. So we've already seen most of these. We do see another Radiant Charizard deck, kind of similar to the build from Peoria that got top 8. Miraidon, once again, doing decent. So yeah, Miraidon did slightly underperform compared to Peoria, but we might see a rebound. There is a Shenpao here, too, another Canadian Shenpao. And we do see an Arcdura Umbreon deck, and this is kind of crazy. Now, I'm still like, I like this deck. It's one of my favorite decks I've played. I just don't know how it is right now. I mean, Umbreon isn't bad, but like, I don't know what's really it's helping. Like, the only matchup I can think Umbreon will be good against, obviously, Gardevoir and Mew VMAX, right? I mean, I guess it is nice to have the aggressive Gust against, like, Shenpao to, like, make them, like, have to be on their toes, but I don't know, man. It is interesting to see Arcdura do well with Umbreon. I don't know if this deck is really good right now, but, I mean, hey, you hit the right matchups good. I mean, I think this deck still obviously just smokes Lost Box, and its Giratina matchup was also a little shaky, I guess, another one I wanted to mention, and I do think that Miraidon matchup can be a little abysmal, too, but it is cool to see the Arcdura Umbreon deck do well again. I mean, I'm a fan of the deck. Is the best way to play Dura? I don't know, but it is cool to see it do well once again, so it's nice. We got another Charizard here, another Arvinzard deck with an Echoing Horn, too. We do see a Sableye, yeah, Turbo Lost Box deck. I don't know why I said Sableye. You know, just so many Lost Zone decks, they'll just blend into each other. Yeah, another Miraidon. Well, one had Mew in it, so there you go. More Canadian Shenpao. Another Rapid Strike. Yeah, we're just going to skim through some of these decks here, because like we've seen most of them, and they're all kind of like the same, right? Yeah, another Guardy with the Mew EX. And yeah, more Guardy with the Tomb this time. Triple Worker, actually, too, I saw. And there's another Lost Zone Charizard EX doing pretty good here in day 2. So there you go. Another Lost Zard got day 2. I mean, it feels like this deck is never going to be the premier way to play it, and probably the one that won't do as well, but it just still going to see a couple squeak into day 2. I think it'll be a pattern. We're going to see a lot more going forward. Yeah, we got more Rapid Strike. Yep. Turbo Lost Box with a Shaman EX. So yeah, kind of respecting the Charizard. Shaman's not a bad attacker either, not just against Charizard. Like that late game damage sometimes can be good. And yeah, another Arvinzard here. We got another Charizard deck here once again. Another Arvinzard with the Pidgeot. The Vengeful Punch too. Another tech card and a Defiance Band I saw. And yet another Kyogre Lost Zone deck. Playing Pidgeot and Dragonite, not playing a Raikou, which is interesting for sure. And we got another Shenpao here, another Canadian Shenpao with the Pokegear. Actually, just playing Irida, no other supporter cards. Just playing the Pokegear instead to try to have a higher heart of hitting Irida. Because you got to hit the Irida turn 2, man, unless you draw the nuts. We got another Arctina here in day 2. So, yeah, Arctina kind of doing its thing. It's interesting to see, right? With, like, how good, like, Mew EX is right now, it's kind of a sketchy deck to play. But, I don't know, it's fine. It's Judge Path, right? Wins you games. I mean, it almost won this regional, so there you go. A couple Mews here back-to-back. We got the Grabber Mew. We got another Grabber Mew back-to-back. We got another Lost Zone Charizard EX deck. Playing Radiant Zard 2 and Ditto. So kind of a bit more of an interesting build here. Playing a 2-1-2 Charizard line. The Charmeleon's interesting. The deck only plays 2 candy. It's kind of trying to split the difference between Radiant Zard and Charizard EX. That's interesting for sure. That's an interesting approach to the archetype. And they got day 2, so hey, it seemed to work. Yeah, Miraidon. Another Lugia here. A lot of players in day 2. We got another Colors Lugia, which again had a pretty good performance this weekend. Another Charizard here. Yeah, another Arvinzard. And see what else we got here. We got another Lost Zone Charizard. This one is again the Radiant Zard. This is actually pretty similar to the 60 from Peoria. 'Cause I forgot that 60 played like triple beach corn stuff. Another Arvinzard once again with the Entei and the Justified Gloves for the mirror. Tekken for the mirror, baby. Got some Rapid Strike with the Giacomo, or I forgot how to say it. They were saying it on stream, and I completely forget how to pronounce it. Is it Guacomo? Guacomo? Is that how you pronounce it? Guacomo? Did I finally pronounce it right? Ooh, interesting build. We got a Arvinzard build with no Pidgeot, but plain Entei and a Radiant Serena and the other Charizard EX from 151. That's an interesting archetype and an interesting build of Zard for sure. Got more DT Mew. This time not playing any like Luxrays or Grabbers or anything, just more straightforward. And we got another single strike Lugia doing good with the Mew and the Cobalion, and those can help against Charizard. And also playing the Thornton, which I guess lets you do like double Cobalion in a game, which is kind of smart for sure. A couple more Lost Zones to look at. Turbo Lost Box. Another Turbo Lost Box here, I think. Yeah, another Turbo Lost Box. And then we got Miraidon here. And we have another Arc deck. I'm interested to see what this is. Arc Vulpix Slacking. So it's another Arc Judge Path deck, but this time it does have that one with Vulpix, which obviously you can't use Vulpix with Path because you shut off your ability, or you shut off the opponent's abilities, which means they can attack Vulpix. You Path a Charizard deck with Vulpix, they can attack your Vulpix. So it's a combo that I personally wouldn't pair with, but hey, it did well. Got day 2. Another Raymond Long here list with the Kyogre Zam, and got Flaffy Miraidon. There you go. And another Lugia. Single strike again. Double Stone Journer is interesting. Not respecting the Charizard is definitely interesting with no Cobalion, but hey, you dodge it or whatever, you're chilling. Another Rapid Strike. And then got another Mew. Double Turbo Mew. So we've seen, what, like one Fusion Mew? Then we got another Miraidon, obviously, because Miraidon's Miraidon. Now, I don't know if this is legit. There's a Tinglu deck in day 2. What the heck, bro? Tinglu getting day 2. Now, you love to see it. Now, this is an interesting archetype because it's something that like kind of died off. I mean, it was kind of a big at first with what Paldea evolved, and then it kind of just obviously never went anywhere. But it's cool to see Tinglu in day 2 nonetheless. I mean, hit the right matchups, you're fine. I think Tinglu loses to Charizard because you can't shut Charizard's ability off. You can't shut Pidgeot off. I also think you take a bit of an L to what else? You could take an L to a lot of stuff, I think. The main one I was thinking of with Charizard, I guess Gardevoir is a little shaky because once they get that EX in play, you just lose. But it's cool to see. It is play a 1/1 Drapion for Paralysis. I guess Paralysis can make a difference in the matchup too. Yeah, it's a cool archetype. Getting day 2 is awesome to see. I'd be interested to see if this is legit or not. I mean, I guess since the deck list is up, it is an actual legit day 2 deck, you know what I mean? Because there was, I think, like, before there was like a Tinglu deck. I think it was in Pittsburgh that people thought was a Tinglu deck, and it turned out it wasn't a Tinglu deck. They just got it wrong. But it looks like a legit Tinglu deck got day 2. We got a control deck in day 2, the Snorlax Wall Stall deck. It was cool. We saw this on stream, but it was a bad stream game because it was against Turbo Lost Box, which literally, if they just Dragonite you, you can't win because the Dragonite just shreds Mimikyu and blows Snorlax up. It sucks, but it is what it is. Control's cool, and seeing it get day 2 is kind of cool to see for sure. Rapture deck I skipped over. And then finally, the last deck here in day 2 is another Miraidon deck with the Drapion and the Flying Pikachu. But there you go. Those are all the day 2 decks. There was a lot of rogue decks, bro. Gyarados, Zoroark, Dialga, Tinglu, Regis. Kind of cool stuff, man. I'm excited for Toronto. We'll have to see if any cool rogue decks do well in Toronto. But that'll be it for today's video here on the second channel on all the day 2 decks. I'll leave a link to the link down below if y'all want to go check these day 2 lists out yourself. And that'll be it for me. Hope y'all have a good rest of your day, and bye-bye.